Have you ever wondered why the moon changes its shape? Well, let's delve into this fascinating celestial phenomenon that has intrigued humans for centuries. When we gaze up at the night sky, we often see the moon in different shapes, from a thin crescent to a full, round disk. However, the moon isn't actually changing its shape. It's all about how sunlight illuminates the moon and the perspective we have from our location here on Earth. As the moon orbits our planet, the angle between the moon, the Earth, and the sun changes, and this affects how much of the moon's surface we can see illuminated by the sun. So when you're looking at a crescent moon, you're actually seeing a fraction of the moon's sunlit side. In the next few minutes, you'll gain a deeper understanding of why the moon seems to change its shape. So buckle up and get ready for a journey to our closest celestial neighbor. To understand the changing shapes of the moon, we must first understand the moon's phases. The moon goes through 4 main phases during its orbit around the Earth: the new moon, first quarter, full moon, and last quarter. These phases are not due to the moon changing its shape or size, but rather a result of the moon's position relative to the Earth and the sun. Let's start with the new moon. This is the beginning of the lunar cycle when the moon is positioned between the Earth and the sun. From our perspective on Earth, the side of the moon that is illuminated by the sun is facing away from us, making the moon appear invisible in the night sky. Next, we have the first quarter. Here the moon is at a right angle to the Earth and the sun. As a result, we see half of the moon's surface illuminated and half in shadow. This gives the moon a half-circle appearance, hence the name first quarter. Moving on, we reach the full moon phase. The moon is now on the opposite side of the Earth from the sun, causing the fully illuminated moon to shine brightly in the night sky. From Earth it appears as a complete circle, giving us the iconic image of a full moon. Lastly, there's the last quarter. Similar to the first quarter, the moon is at a right angle to the Earth and the sun. However, this time, it's the other half of the moon that's illuminated, once again giving us a half-circle appearance. Throughout these phases, it's important to note that the moon itself doesn't change. It's the perspective from which we see the moon that alters its appearance. Depending on the moon's position in relation to the Earth and the sun, different portions of the moon's surface are illuminated, creating the illusion of the moon changing shape. With this understanding of the moon's phases, we can now delve into why it appears to change its shape. Now, let's uncover the science behind the moon's changing appearance. The moon's seemingly shape-shifting nature is actually due to 2 things: the angle at which sunlight hits the moon, and the moon's orbit around our home planet, Earth. Imagine a spotlight shining on a ball. If you are standing directly in front of the spotlight, you'll see the entire ball illuminated. However, if you move to the side, you'll see less and less of the ball lit up, even though the shape of the ball hasn't changed at all. This is similar to how we perceive the moon from Earth. The sun acts as our cosmic spotlight. Its rays shine on the moon, and the moon reflects that light back to us on Earth. As the moon orbits Earth, the angle at which the sunlight hits the moon changes, causing different portions of the moon to be illuminated at different times. When the moon is between the Earth and the sun, the side of the moon facing us receives no direct sunlight. We call this a new moon. As the moon moves along its orbit, more of the moon's surface becomes illuminated, leading to the waxing phases. When the moon is directly opposite the sun, it's fully illuminated from our perspective, and we call this a full moon. Then, as the moon continues its journey, less of its surface is lit, leading to the waning phases. It's the moon's consistent orbit and the unchanging laws of light and reflection that give us these constant and predictable lunar phases. And here's a fun fact: the moon doesn't orbit in a perfect circle, but in an ellipse. This means its distance from Earth changes slightly over time, leading to the phenomenon of supermoons and micromoons. So although the moon itself doesn't change shape, the amount of it we can see does. We've explored the phases of the moon and the science behind its changing appearance. Let's summarize. Let's start with the moon's phases. The moon, our closest celestial neighbor, goes through a cycle of phases from new moon to full moon over a period of roughly 28 days. This cycle, known as a lunar month, is a result of the moon's orbit around the Earth. When we talk about the new moon phase, it's the time when the moon is positioned between the Earth and the sun. It's there, but we can't see it because the side of the moon facing us receives no direct sunlight. As the moon moves along its orbit, we begin to see a sliver of light, signaling the start of the waxing phases. The first quarter or half moon is when the moon is at a right angle to the Earth and sun. We can see exactly half of the moon illuminated. As it continues its journey, more of the moon becomes visible until we reach the full moon phase. This is when the Earth is between the moon and the sun, and we can see the whole face of the moon illuminated. Then, the moon starts to wane, or decrease in visibility, until we're back to the new moon phase. This fascinating cycle repeats itself month after month, but remember, the moon isn't actually changing its shape, it's always a sphere. What changes is our perspective of the moon depending on its position relative to Earth and the sun. The sunlight hitting the moon and the portion of the moon that's visible from our vantage point on Earth create the illusion of the moon's changing shape. So when you look up at the night sky and see the moon in one of its many phases, you're not seeing a shape-shifting, celestial body. Instead, you're witnessing a beautiful interplay of celestial mechanics and light, a dance that's been going on for billions of years. Next time you see the moon, remember, it's not changing shape, but giving us a different view of its constant circle.